Hello again everyone, and welcome back to Z-Man, Zombies, Movies, and More. And today we have a perfect tutorial for you for Adobe After Effects if you like slicing heads off. Today we take a look at Manny the Zombie as he gets his head decapitated by Mike the Survivor. And this footage is in our most recent episode 5 of Dead Nightmare, so please make sure to go out and give it a watch and like and subscribe if you're enjoying it. And right now we're going to go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be doing here today.
As you can see, it's quite a violent head chop, Michael Myers style, if I do say so myself, and I do. So let's go ahead and see here. So we're going to be working with 3 pieces of footage today that I shot on some family land. One will be like a clean plate of just the forest background itself. Another piece will be Manny the Zombie by himself. And then the third one will be Mike Appel the Survivor, as he comes in and slices with his real machete. And of course, we use these tactics so that we didn't hurt anybody on set. And also, we'll be also using a couple of blood effects from the Action Essentials Part 2 from videocopilot.net. I'm not affiliated with Andrew Kramer, the creator of the site and all that material, but he is amazing. I've learned so much over the last couple of years with all of his content. So if you're looking to learn After Effects, I highly suggest going to his site and rifling through his tutorials, because you'll learn so much. Alright, so first we're going to bring in the Manny scene, which is just the zombie on green screen. And some of you are probably wondering, why would we use footage where we had so much light bleeding through into the green screen? And actually, this was a conscious mistake because we didn't have the time. It was already midday, and the sun was passing over. The light was already starting to bleed through the trees and leaves and onto the screen, so we had to go with it. And luckily, it did not ruin the shot. So that was good news for us. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to draw a mask around Manny here. So we're going to draw it around and make it a little wider because his movements got a little crazy while he was turning. And, you always want to give good direction to your subjects when they're on the green screen, because sometimes they don't realize if they're going to fall off screen and whatnot. So that way, here we go. We're going to make this a little wider. We'll turn this down to a 3rd resolution so we can scrub through this faster. And we just want to make sure that his movements stay within the screen. So let's move this out a little bit by his arm. And looks like as we go around here, he's looking pretty good. And up there by the head, widen that just a little bit. And looks like the rest, he's going to walk over, slice, and drop. All right, looking good. All right, so now that we have that, we have the mask created. We're going to go ahead and to use the key light. So we're going to go up to Effects, down to Key, and Key Light 1.2. So here we're going to pick the color green to key him out. So of course, we had some issues with the light bleeding through and a little bit of noise in the background. So normally we would actually choose the even green that most of the screen is taking. But in this case, we're going to actually use the brighter green. It just happened to work better because I've gone through this a couple times. And so we're going to go down to Screen Matte. And now we're going to go ahead and play a few tricks here to try and get him a solemn white key for Manny, and then a black around him. So we're going to open up the Screen Matte, and then we're going to go to the Clip Black, and we're going to take that up to around 70, maybe 72. And then we'll take the Clip White, and we'll go ahead and bring that down to around 74. As you can see, we're getting a pretty good key from Manny. We're going to turn this resolution back up so we can see. And so we got some of the noise and stuff outside of the mask, so that's what the mask does. It gets rid of all that. And as we scrub through, we can see that we have a little bit of an issue up here around the middle of his head with some noise and grain. So to get that full key, we're going to have to play a few other tricks. We might bring up the screen softness here by just a little bit, maybe at 0.1 or 0.2. And then we can also bring up the shrink and grow. Don't use too much of this, but we're going to bring it up to maybe like a 1.2, and that'll help. So let's go down to the final result and see what we look like here. So there's Manny all keyed out, gruesome looking, nice face. So what you'll find when you do a standard key is that you get a lot of noise and grain on your subject. So there's a way you can get rid of this, and there's already been a ton of great tutorials on this, but I'm going to go ahead and hit on it real quick. So basically what we're going to do is duplicate our footage, and then on the bottom layer, we're going to select Keylight and delete that program for that portion of it. So we'll be rid of that totally. And then we'll go ahead and change the track matte to alpha. And so what this actually does is it uses our original background matte to bring through the rest of the colors to bring that color back into the subject. So the grain is gone. And the edges are a little rough around the arms. So, and there's a little bit of the green spilling through. So we'll go ahead and take these two pieces and we'll pre-compose them together with a Control-Shift-C and move all attributes into the new comp. Okay. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and go into the effects. And we'll go down to the keen and spill suppressor. And then we're just going to pick a bright green. And that's what's going to do is it's going to try and eliminate those green edges around his body. So you can use the scale bar to go up and down, of course. And as you go down, it bleeds through even more. And as you go up, it starts to disappear. So you just want to play around with that a little bit. Don't use it too much, but just enough to where it starts to disappear from his skin. And then you also see that the edges are looking a little rough around his shirt and the arms. So what we can do is we're going to go down and use a simple choker. And we'll start to raise that up. Again, you don't want to use too much of this. Just kind of go slowly. And you'll see it'll really start to even those edges. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is going to bring in the clean plate forest footage for the background so we can see what Manny looks like. And right now he's looking pretty good. Let's take this audio off and scrub through just to see. And what's nice is we still have the lighting coming through on his arms and head and everything, so it matches the background. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create multiple layers for Manny's body so that his head actually seems detached as the lower half falls to the ground. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate our footage twice with a Control-D if you're on PC. And we're going to click on these and we're going to name them so we keep track of them. So the top one we'll call full body. The second one we'll do lower body. And then the third we'll call top, maybe head. And then the background we'll just go ahead and call clean plate background. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and draw a mask around Manny again. And just kind of take it up and above and then go downward and create a couple of points that we'll use to kind of shave his head clean off. And we'll show you how to do that just a little bit here. The next part, we're going to find the point where it looks like his head kind of gets sliced. So he did like a little pop with his head. It kind of, with the force of the machete hitting it, kind of looks like he gets kind of knocked a little bit. So we're going to use that part as the area where we want to start our masks. So what we're going to do here is we're going to turn off the other layers. And for the top head, we're going to go ahead and create a mask that kind of angles and slices right through. And so this will single out his top portion of the head that's going to actually fly off once the machete comes through and it acts like it does the slice. So just go right around it. So there you go. It's singled out. And there he is. So once we add the footage with Mike Appel swinging his machete, we'll actually use this top head layer and we'll position it and we'll set some keyframes so that we move it down and off the screen over about 4 or so keyframes. And we'll do some blur on it and whatnot and it'll look legit. So what I want to do here for a second is take a break on the masks and I want to bring in Mike's footage where he's swinging the machete. And what we want to do is bring it in underneath the 3 layers. And then what we want to do is line it up so that when Mike's machete swings, it meets that portion of where Manny's head kind of popped back, and where our layer is going to start, of where the head will detach and for the top head, and the lower body will drop to the ground. Okay, what we're going to probably do here is move Manny over, because he's a little too close to Mike, and they're kind of blending into each other, or running into each other. So I'm going to take the 3 layers, full, lower, and top, and luckily since he's on green screen, we can shift him wherever we want to. So I'm going to move him to the right-hand side here, keep the height consistent, and let's see what we got here. And there we go. Look at that. The machete is slicing literally right through that upper nose area, exactly where we want it to be. So that's looking good. So these were all shot on a tripod, a stationary shot, so that way we could control what we were doing. Alright, so let's go manipulate those masks that we were creating earlier. So what we want to do is choose the lower body section, and we're going to take the points that are just above his head, the 2 that are right there, and we're going to drag them down around where the machete is going to slice through. We're going to scrub back here just a little bit, and we'll find where that machete is. And now we can go ahead and bring those 2 mask points down, kind of at an angle. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just decent. And angle them just a little bit more. Alright, that looks good. So now we're going to go ahead and create some keyframes that'll map the path of the mask that we created for the lower body. So we'll go ahead and choose the keyframe and hit the little button for the mask path. And the opacity, we may not actually end up using opacity, but I'm going to go ahead and map it right now just in case I decide to use it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, just depending on the situation. But the path, we absolutely, definitely will be changing those points. So using the page up and down, what we want to do is start moving those key points down with his head so it can match where his head was sliced. So as we page down, each time we do, we're going to move the 2 key points so that they map around. Looks like it's just above his nose and around the middle back of his head. So we'll keep that slight angle. And again, each time we page down as his body starts to fall, we'll move those 2 points down each time, and just keep following him. Luckily, this is a little tedious, but it's only about 12 or so frames, and you can actually drag them down together. If you click on one point, I think it's hold Shift, and click on the other, you can then drag them down together as one. So that way you'll keep the angle the same and keep it consistent as you move down. So the next piece, we're going to go ahead and manipulate the top head portion. And we'll go ahead and move the top head portion all the way over to where the first frame starts, where the lower body separates. And that way you won't see that top head layer until it hits that first keyframe. And then we're going to hit P for position and set the keyframe. And then as we go for the next, 3 to 4, even 5 frames if you want to, we're just going to start taking that layer and moving it down, and just moving it down towards the bottom of the screen. So each time you page down, just keep moving it a little bit closer. It's going to be a pretty quick transition. So again, 3 to 5 keyframes, and then just make sure the bottom piece finally falls totally off screen. And to help sell the effect, what we can also do is kind of blur it out so that it doesn't look so clean. So first we'll take this head position, we'll move it up, and that way it'll be above the lower level, so it looks it's like in front of the body, so they can actually see a little bit more of the head as it's falling off. And then we'll go up to effects, and then we'll put a blur on. So we'll do a fast blur. So blur and sharpen, and then we'll do a fast blur. And we'll probably give it about a 7. You can blur it as much as you want, but I use something usually around 5 to 8. And it's going to go so fast, it's just going to fly right off. So that's looking pretty good. As his body trails off, and again, the blood will sell the rest. All right. So the next piece we're going to do is add to effect. We're going to add the motion blur. So for the top head and the lower body, we're going to go ahead and toggle the switches and turn on the motion blur for each, and that'll create even more blur as they're parting each other. And we'll go ahead and take the lower body and move it over as well, so that both the top head and lower body, the frames start at that point where we want his head to separate. So we'll bring our bars over here, and we'll just do a little scrub motion here just to see what it's going to look like. And right now, let's see here. Oh yeah, that's looking good. So it's basically flying straight off of the top. And what we can also do, because this has happened so fast, but the edges are a little sharp on the top part of the head and also the lower bottom. So another thing we can do is we can click on these, and we can toggle off the mask points, and we actually feather the sections. And it doesn't take a whole lot, but we'll feather it up to around so it's not so sharp. And then again, also do that for the top head. And then if you hit M, that's a shortcut to go to your masks. And if you hit double M, that'll open up all the options for the mask you've created. And so yeah, so we'll feather that top head piece as well. And that way it gives it just a little bit of rounded. I mean, again, it's happening so fast on the screen, they probably can't tell either way. But, you know, devil's in the details. Okay, so we're almost done here. The next thing we're going to do is add the blood effects. So these blood effects are from the Action Essentials set from Andrew Kramer and videocopilot.net. So that's Action Essentials Part 2. So let's add these pieces on. We have a Bloodburst 12 and Bloodburst 11. So we'll start by taking number 12, and we're going to bring it on top of everything, so the blood's actually on top. And it's a pretty short piece. Let's drag it over, and let's see where it actually starts. Let's just scrub it a second. And there's where the action starts. So we're going to bring it over here, and it's like a big explosion of blood. And it's actually a pretty good size, so I think we're going to probably keep it. And we'll maneuver the blood so that it sits just on top of where the slice motion takes place. And then it's actually just about the perfect timing as well, so we won't have to stretch it any. We'll just leave it just as it is. And then it depends how much blood you want to use and how gory, but I always think that blood helps sells the effects. So I'm going to go ahead and keep, I think, the full amount going. But what we will do is we're going to try and darken up this blood because it's way too light at the moment. So let's go and put a curves on this. And curves is always good for coloring. And we'll bring this down to darken it up to a nice thick blood color. And boom. That's nasty. That's what I like to see. All right, cool. And then he'll keep dropping. And yeah, like I said, the timing's looking good for that blood. But we're not done yet. So let's go ahead and take the Bloodburst 11. And we can go ahead and turn off the top layer at the moment. And we'll put this one down just below the head. And then that'll be just behind his head. And it's going to look pretty cool coming from behind there. Just to give it like a different angle, different layer. And so here's where the action's starting, just like the last one. We'll drag it over just a little bit. And maneuver it just behind the head, but up a bit. Because obviously it's bleeding through that layer a little bit. And it's no big deal. We don't have to worry about that. And I'm going to scale this one down, though, because this is a little large for what we're trying to accomplish here. So scale it down, bring it back down to the middle. And there we go. A nice little explosion. And so, okay, so the slice is looking good. So this gives a nice, cool splatter explosion coming from behind the head. So I'm liking that. So you can see more of this type of footage and some other cool drama in our short series, Dead Nightmare. And, we're always trying to up the bar by adding new death scenes and different makeup and different drama scenes to bring something for the viewer. We're really learning a lot of great things and trying to share the experiences with you all. So I hope you decide to come back and subscribe, maybe like. Please leave comments if you have questions about something I missed or something else you're trying to look for. I'll be happy to answer those. And I guess make sure to stop back by soon, because we'll have some more tutorials on death scenes, some different shots we've done, and maybe even some interviews with some of the actors. So again, this is Z-Man, Zombies, Movies, and More, and we hope to see you back out here next time. See ya!
One, action, turn, one step forward, slice! That's good. I think we're gonna roll with it.